So there is potential right now that the video game sphere as we know it is about to radically shift. Not just because Nintendo Switch has taken over in terms of this hybrid nature and trying to take games everywhere, but because Microsoft is in some semi-serious conversations to make an acquisition that would ripple across the entire video game industry. Microsoft is looking to purchase Electronic Arts. Now, you might think Electronic Arts is too big to be purchased. Microsoft has a cap value, a net worth value, somewhere around the $135 to $140 billion range. EA's cap is around $35 billion, which is significantly smaller than Microsoft. But for a company who makes most of their money outside of video games, committing even a quarter of their company's value to purchasing EA would seem crazy on the surface. But we have an actual report out there now about this. This report comes from Polygon. And it says, some of the names being thrown around as possible acquisitions by Microsoft are frankly astounding, even unthinkable. But the fact they are doing the rounds is instructive. The most recent one we heard from a reliable source close to Microsoft was in fact Electronic Arts. There's some other companies too. There were some apparently whispers about Valve and the company that created PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds and whatever. Whispers are one thing, but a close, reliable source to Microsoft saying, hey, look, we're seriously looking into buying EA. That's crazy. And this is on like the heels of their announcement that all exclusive Xbox One games would be part of their games as a service ideal, where you pay $10 a month, get access to all these back catalog games, and also brand new games day one. You don't have to spend any extra, no premium pricing. It's just part of the service. It's part of their gaming service. This to me is insane. This is nuts. It's frankly unbelievable, to be honest. And this will mark a massive turn at Microsoft to ensuring they are taking gaming seriously if they bought EA. Now, how would this affect the rest of the world? Does this mean all EA games, if Microsoft purchased them, would suddenly be exclusively on Xbox? Or would they treat it more like the Minecraft acquisition? When they bought Mahjong and they had Minecraft, they allowed Minecraft to exist on all platforms, and they continue to develop it for all platforms. I have this feeling that if Microsoft did purchase EA, which would be insane, they'd have to buy out basically a vast majority of the stockholders to own, I don't know, however much percent they need to own to have controlling interest. That would be a very, very expensive acquisition, and it also would be unheard of in the video game industry. Usually you see, a Microsoft, a Nintendo, a Sony, an EA, and Ubisoft buying out small studios. Never do you see those bigger companies get bought out by a platform holder. And I think that Microsoft would keep like the FIFAs and the Maddens of the world would probably continue to be multi-platform just because part of the value of EA is the sheer amount of games they sell. But the acquisition of EA would add so many studios to Microsoft's window that any future new IPs, any future new games or revival of IPs, like say Dead Space as an example that's been long gone, would be exclusive to Xbox. So this could be a great deal for them because not only do they get more big franchises that blow up everywhere, and they're going to continue to make those games, of course, they would also add a whole bunch of game makers in that can make exclusive content for Xbox. This is almost like a win-win in terms of, one, making Microsoft extremely relevant, especially in the United States market, where they seem to really, really want to cater to the U.S. market. So that gives them that confidence back. It gives them, almost as big of a potential exclusive library of games as Nintendo has, which is crazy. And you just think about that. That's crazy to even contemplate that future. And obviously it marries together two companies that some gamers like to crap on. They like to crap on EA. They like to crap on Microsoft. Join forces. EA Access would obviously just become part of their subscription service. It's hard to wrap my mind around this. And you might be saying, hey, you're Nintendo Prime. You're Nate from Nintendo Prime. Why are you even talking about this? Well, if you haven't figured it out by now, this is kind of our first episode of 2018 of Outside the Box, because there's too much craziness going on for me to ignore it at this point. I have some Nintendo news to get to. We released our podcast today. Good times ahead. Good times are rolling. But this is the biggest thing happening in the video game industry potentially ever. This would be akin to Nintendo buying out Ubisoft. And that's never going to happen. Nintendo's never going to buy out Ubisoft. They don't have the money to do it. You know, we're talking about a potential $35 billion acquisition of EA from Microsoft. Nintendo's got $9 billion in the bank, roughly. Nintendo can't afford EA. They can't afford Ubisoft. But Microsoft can afford anyone. Sony can't afford it. Microsoft is the only company out there that has a video game console that can afford to completely buy out someone like EA. This is just, man, just mind-boggling that this is even being considered, that Microsoft's even exploring it. Again, this does not mean that EA is going to become part of Microsoft. It doesn't mean that the investors might even be willing to sell a majority of their stuff to Microsoft to let them have the majority ownership. There's no guarantees that this is even happening. It's just being discussed, and what it would take to do it, how much would it cost, what's Microsoft willing to risk to try to take gaming seriously. They did promote Phil Spencer to a new position that allows the gaming aspects of Xbox and Microsoft to become a bigger deal for Microsoft on the whole. So it definitely feels like Microsoft is trying to take gaming more seriously. And the only way to really take gaming more seriously is to do something drastic at this point. They need to have more exclusives coming to the platform at a regular pace. Just buying out developer like PUBG isn't going to do it. Buying out Valve, you know, that might help a little bit, although Valve doesn't necessarily make so many games. It'd be more so them wanting to buy out the Steam platform, which actually a lot of people might be okay with, because then Microsoft can dump their Windows 10 garbage store and just throw all their games on Steam and make that all work in sync with Xbox Live. But whatever the case may be, the Steam acquisition would be more about trying to maximize the revenue on PCs, whereas buying EA would be about maximizing revenue by having a bunch of new games. Granted, maybe if they bought Valve, that could lead to Half-Life 3. We can all keep dreaming. But, yeah, I don't think the Valve, you know, we're talking whispers with Valve versus verified source of legit information close to Microsoft. This is, oh man. As a Nintendo fan, it hurts a little bit because any games that are being made by EA that aren't already being made for Switch would just not probably come to Switch anymore. As an example, I really want to see Madden on Switch, but because there isn't a Switch version of Madden right now, if Microsoft buys them out, there's definitely no reason for them to release a Switch version now. As I said, anything they already released on PlayStation 4, they're going to keep doing. They're going to keep bringing FIFA to it, keep bringing Madden to it, because they shouldn't stop. They're not going to kill the money train that EA has going. But what they could do is, I mean, think about this. If they buy out EA, that means they also have that exclusive, for how many years it is, Star Wars license. Imagine the partnership Microsoft could do with Star Wars, and imagine the exclusive content. Like, they would have to pay EA for exclusive content. They own EA. They could be like, look, we're going to release this on everywhere, but all the DLC is coming to Xbox One first. All the special editions are coming to Xbox One. All of this is coming to here, and yeah, we'll have the game on PlayStation 4, but it's just the base game. They could do a lot of crazy things, good or bad for the industry. If Microsoft owns them, it's their stuff. They could do with what they want. I will say this. I don't think EA could become any shadier if Microsoft owns them than they've been. In fact, Microsoft's been a pretty transparent since Phil Spencer took over, so if anything, this would actually maybe lead to some transparency with EA and some of the loot box stuff and the microtransactions and the buying out of smaller studios and killing them off, you know, almost prematurely, it felt like, several times in their history. Phil Spencer actually might be a good person to kind of rein that all in if they bought EA. But I don't know what to really think about this, because this is one of the craziest video game stories I've heard in my life. And I've seen several acquisitions over the years. I've seen companies go away. I've seen Sega, witnessing them going from like almost having as much power as Nintendo to being this smaller thing that just makes multi-platform games. And I know some people say, oh, the multi-platform stuff saved Sega. Yes, it saved them, but they're still not nearly as relevant as they were back when the Genesis was like one of the top dogs in the industry. So They are significantly less important today as a software maker than they were when they were in the dedicated hardware space. Same will be true for Sony and Microsoft. Although, if Microsoft owns EA and they decide to stop making consoles, they're going to stay pretty relevant because EA is not going anywhere anytime soon. EA has a huge chunk of the AAA market on their side. So this is just crazy and insane to me that this is even being considered. You guys let me know what you want to happen in the comments below. Do you want Microsoft to make this acquisition to take, a quarter or even maybe a little more than a quarter of the total value of Microsoft as a company and buy out EA? Is this something you're interested in? Do you think it's going to lead to more exclusives for Xbox? Is this going to make Xbox a more serious threat to even Switch? What if they decide to come out with their own hybrid portable and they're like, hey, look, we're going to support it with all of these games because we own them all now? It's just going to be a crazy, crazy thing to me to see how this plays out and see if anything happens beyond Microsoft trying to figure out what it would take to acquire the company. My mind is just... And then the games as a service thing, like we talked about it on the podcast, so I'm not going to reiterate much of what I said here, but it's just crazy that you don't have to spend $60 on their games anymore. Just spend $120 total for a year, and any exclusive games they release in that year, you just get them. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me as an Xbox owner, but I don't know. I'll have links to sources to all this stuff down in the comments or down in the description. You guys let me know what you think. I'm so flabbergasted right now that I'm not even sure how to articulate what's going through my mind. Anyways, folks, I'm Nathaniel Rufflejans from Nintendo Prime, and if you like this video, you know what to do, and if you dislike the video, hit that dislike button, subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you in the next one.